Welcome to Breathe California TV. I'm Terry Trumbull. I'm a volunteer that heads the Environmental Health Committee. We're trying to get ways so that you're not damaged by air pollution, not damaged by the impacts of energy use in your life. So for over 100 years, Breathe California here in the Bay Area has been doing those kind of things. Key part of this is the electric car. We're going to talk about a specific electric car, the Think car, with a couple of owners, and we think it's a pretty doggone option for you to think about. So come back and join us in 30 seconds.
The nice thing about Better Breathers Club is we go in and there's other people sitting around with oxygen. It's almost a relief that everybody looks the same in the room. It's a funny thing to say, but it's a good feeling. Breathe California means having resources available to us that will help guide us and make our lives easier.
Hi, I'm Terry Trumbull. You're with Breathe California TV. As you saw in that public service announcement, people are injured, have difficulties either due to their genetics or asthma, but most of our problems come from air pollution. And air pollution is almost entirely a product of our energy use. One of the components of Breathe California's work, where we helped 100,000 people last year, is preventing lung damage by energy conservation or moving to more efficient cars. And our Clean Cities program is very active in pushing the Think car. We're lucky enough to have two owners, Cheryl Schmitt and Cavanagh, to talk about their Think cars today on the show. Welcome.
Welcome. It's very good to be here, I should say.
Well, we really appreciate, I bought a hybrid 12 years ago. I feel like I'm an early adopter, and that trend has continued with what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So both of you've got Think cars. Gene, why don't you start off by telling us what in the world a Think car is, where you got it, and kind of a little bit of your history.
I will comment in passing that we started with a hybrid also, and but recently we had a chance to buy the Think car. It's completely electric. We had some concerns, of course, because we thought, well, gee, where are we going to refill it with electricity? But what about the range? We're finding it's just not a problem. We're finding the Think is just really the solution to what we wanted. Most people, once in a while they need to go a fair distance, but most of the time they're not going really that far. And the Think, I think, is just perfect for that. It's lots of storage space. It can do
storage. You mean for equipment and stuff you're carrying besides
yes.
A couple of people?
I can fold my bicycle and throw it in the back, and I can't do that on my gas-burning car. And just almost anything I want to put in the back, there's plenty of room. 3 foot by 3 foot by 4 feet or something like that. And at the same time, it just drives beautifully. I've had it out on the highway at it was a 65 miles an hour speed limit, but I was up above 70 for a little while just to see if it would do it. And it just drives absolutely incredibly. I'm just very, very pleased with it. And
so Gene, you've done a great job of giving us an overview. Let's be specific. What is a Think car? It's a brand of car?
Yeah, it was a car that was designed in Oslo, Norway,
mm-hmm.
and built in Elkhart, Indiana, I'm told. Very well built. It's got a recycled plastic body, so mm-hmm. it's very...
it's light, so that helps the energy use.
Very light, but it's also economically sensitive, environmentally sensitive. And it's a lightweight car, as you say. It weighs only slightly over a ton, and which is small for a car. But it handles beautifully. The weight's all down at the bottom, so you have this really good cornering capability, and you have excellent acceleration with an electric motor, of course.
Yeah, people don't realize that every bit of that energy is available to you. Electric car can accelerate much better. Rod Dearden Sr. had an electric car, and he picked me up at the airport, and he says, I want to show you how fast this goes. And I'm going, oh my God. You know, he cranked up to like 110 in a short 2-mile stretch. I mean, acceleration is not a problem with electric car.
Right.
So I'm sick of seeing gas guzzler ads on TV, but how in the world did you come across the car? I mean, I'm not seeing think ads. Where'd you get it? I mean, I really want you to walk through us the how and why that you went to purchase the car.
Okay, well, we were fortunate enough to see an article about the Think car in one of our local newspapers. I guess I can mention it, it's the
Sure.
Palo Alto Post.
Yeah.
And they had a very, very entertaining, well-written article about the Think and its capabilities. And it sounded just like the kind of car that we were looking for. Truthfully, at that time, we were really looking for a hybrid because we were concerned about range.
Yeah.
But the Think just sounded like it was so much better than the other things we'd heard of in electric cars, you know. No longer limited to 35 miles an hour, that sort of thing, that we decided to follow up on it. And we had, in the article, they told us where to go and who to talk to. And
so who's the where to go and who do you talk to? I'm not worried about commercial things. Just don't badmouth the companies that are doing gas guzzlers.
No, we have a gas guzzler when we need to go on a long trip, and it's a beautiful car. We love it. But we tend to just, without even considering what we're doing for the environment, which is important, but still, without even thinking of that, we tend to go in the electric car. It just drives better. It's better, drives better than any gas burner I've ever had. But we bought it at Mission Valley Ford from Tom DeBow, really excellent guy. And of course, I like him because he, you know, no nonsense. He just tells you like it is, and you can make up your mind then.
So he has a big Think sign in the front of the Ford dealership?
He does indeed.
Does it? Oh, I'm impressed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was saying that because people might go down and try to buy it and not have the usual automotive signs.
Well, I don't know if he still does have the Think sign up or not, because he sold nearly all of them, but he has a few left, I'm told. And but he's just an excellent guy. And for us, it's just gotten better and better. You know, we've had it in the Mountain View Thursday Night Live street fair a couple of times, and people they're just really impressed by it. They always blew them away that we have so much cargo space and that we have such comfortable seats, and you know, it's just a neat little car.
Well, the second half of the show, Cheryl's going to show us, and it looks smallish. Do you have some advantages you see in that?
Yeah, we can park almost anywhere. You know, we can, parallel parking especially, we can park in the space that everybody else has to go by. And it's very maneuverable. We can make a U-turn on a street that were always before we had to make forward, back, that sort of thing. But we can just make a smooth U-turn with the Think. I guess
you know, I feel that way with my hybrid. You know, I don't have any problem in any street turn around.
Right. Well,
and every once in a while I have to drive a bigger car for somebody, and I just don't know how you could go back. You know, the maneuverability and the safety you feel by having more control of your life than you do in a SUV is critical.
Well, we had that in our hybrid too. We had a very nice little hybrid, one we were just dearly loved, but unfortunately a driver ran a red light and wiped it out for us. But well, fortunately, because neither one of us are permanently hurt. But we loved our hybrid, but I really think I like the Think better. I really do. Now, we do have a gas burner, like I say, in case we need to go a long way, and it's a very nice car. And, you know, it's convertible, so my wife can put the top down if she feels like it.
Well, I want to talk about the range issue, but I kind of stifled our guest by saying it's easier to have one talk before and one after, but I think getting in the experiences of Cheryl when we're talking about it rather than going back makes sense. So on the maneuverability issue and safety issues, anything you want to throw in?
Well, one of the things that I like about the Think is that I'm sitting up so high in the vehicle because the batteries are actually under the seats. So the visibility in that car is incredible. It has really big windows. The rear window is very big. So the visibility is great. And now when I get into my gas car, I feel like I'm sitting on the ground. You know, I'm sitting so low in the gas car. So I really like sitting up high.
Well, and you're an engineer by training as well as one of those attorney types, which I am. But it seems to be a significant factor for the safety for both of you is what you just said.
Absolutely.
Is the weight is down low. I mean, the turnover rate on SUVs and big vehicles is really high, and the weight underneath you means it's very low to the ground and more maneuverable, I assume.
Very stable.
Yeah.
Very,
And
very
right
stable.
in the middle of the car. So it's great.
Yeah, that's.
But I agree with I agree with Cheryl. I really do. That being up high like that in a very comfortable seat, I will add,
Yes.
it's just really a big advantage.
So let's go back to you, Gene, and start off on the range issue. One of the biggest fears when I see studies about people's reluctance to buy electric cars is they think they've got to be able to go forever. What's your experience?
There's times that that's very appropriate, but we find that that's almost never true, and we know when we're going to have to go a long way. We know that before we get in the car. We're very unlikely to go out and get in the car, intending to go to the grocery store, and instead drive down to Los Angeles. I mean, it's never happened, and
Yes.
don't think it's going to.
Yeah.
So we pretty much know how far we're going to go, and 100 miles doesn't sound like much, but it is. It's a long way.
So 100 miles is the range of the Think car?
100 miles is the range,
Yeah.
although actually if you drive it in an economy mode, you can stretch it out to 125, I believe.
So what does economy mean? As opposed to zipping in 110, you're going 10 miles an hour?
It just means that when you let off the accelerator, instead of just coasting on and on forever, you experience a slight slowing down, which is actually the car converting some of that energy back into electricity.
So which mode is it like that? You know, I remember when I was growing up, my parents thought this concept called overdrive was God's gift to the world. And what it meant was you're out on the highway, the engine didn't slow you down, friction might have. It sounds like now that's being converted into energy that goes into the battery.
Right, extended range and just a slight slowing down, which we sort of like. You know, we were coming up to a stoplight and we let off the accelerator and the car just gradually eases off. It's hardly noticeable, but it's there.
This shows that I haven't taken physics since high school and asked it. But which mode is the gradual slow down?
The economy mode.
The economy mode is. And that's just so it can capture some of that energy as opposed to
Exactly. Put it back in the battery.
what I might call freewheeling is the
Yes.
high speed. Is that just so it can accelerate quicker?
Right. Well, in drive mode, just what they call drive mode, it's freewheeling. You know, it's almost like overdrive used to be, which I used to love overdrive also. But the economy mode is more like the older cars used to be when you weren't in overdrive. When you let off the gas, it slowed down a little bit more than you could account for by just inertia, or by friction or anything like that. But you really hardly even notice it. In fact, my wife says she can't notice it. But nevertheless, as you're coming up to say a light, okay, you're doing say 30 miles an hour. You let off the accelerator. Half a block later, when you're near the light, you're down to maybe 10 or 15 miles an hour, and that difference is electricity that you're pumping back into the battery.
So we're talking with Gene Cavanagh and Cheryl Schmitt about their experiences driving the Think electric car. I want to get in some thoughts and then we'll go to a break. But here's the things to think about. They're driving a car that's much more energy efficient, that protects you and I in areas where the air is unhealthy. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is with Cheryl in a second. So we'll see you in 30 seconds.
I have asthma, and so asthma, like, I can't do that many sports because I like wheeze and then I have to take my inhaler. I can't do a lot of things other kids can do. What I learned at asthma camp is how to treat your asthma and like don't hold back if you have asthma. Breathe California has made it easier for me to play sports and do other things that I couldn't do before.
Welcome back. I'm Terry Trumbull with Breathe California. I'm a volunteer. I try to focus on preventing lung damages, but the organization principally, as with most health organizations, is out there trying to help people like the asthma victims that you saw. But the best thing that we can do to help asthma victims, the 600,000 people in this county that have breathing difficulties, is to not use energy. Anything we can do to conserve energy or switch to more efficient sources like the Think car really makes sense. So we're talking with Cheryl Schmitt and Cavanagh about their experiences with the Think car, and lo and behold, we have one here. So I hope the visual works for you pretty well. Anything in particular you'd want to highlight, Cheryl, besides the car?
Well, Jean and I were talking about what color did you get?
Yeah.
What color did you get? Jean got the red one and I got the black one. Because I thought, the black was so much more sophisticated looking.
Yeah, well, I like the blue one because I was the first graduating class from my high school, and we got to pick our colors, and it was a light blue like this. So hard to tell the size. Is this about the size of an SUV?
Yeah, right.
There's got to be some humor on this show.
It's almost the height of an SUV, wouldn't you say?
Well, it's
pretty
more
high.
like a bug. In fact, because mine's black, I call it the Think bug. And yeah.
There's an amazing amount of space back here in the cargo area.
Oh, yeah,
You just wouldn't
right
believe it
back
looking
in
at
here.
it, but it's there.
So walk me through that. It's two-seater, or could you put, when the Honda Insight came out, you could put a couple of people in the back, but it also was luggage area. It wasn't terribly good for the sitting. Could you go with 4 back there, or only if you were college students?
well, a friend of mine has said, you could put another couple of seat belts back here, and you could carry 4 people in this car.
Yeah.
But for my lifestyle, 2-seater is perfect. My kids
Same
are
here.
grown up. I'm not hauling my kids
Same here.
around any longer.
Just my wife and I.
Yeah, so just a passenger.
There's
is all
plenty
I
of
need.
room for 2 seats, but I agree with Cheryl. I wouldn't want to do
Well, and the kind of trips you're talking about, which are virtually all of your trips, right? 2 people is the most you're going to be carrying.
Exactly.
It's not like a long trip where you're taking a bunch of people along with you.
Well, you'll laugh though. I take advantage of that huge cargo space. I put my folding bike in there so that if I don't like where my wife's going, I can just say, well, goodbye, and take off.
There's a lot of interior space in this car too. When you're sitting in the car, it feels very roomy.
It does, and the seats are really comfortable.
The seats are comfortable. There's a lot of head space. I think Scandinavians tend to be tall. So even real tall people, there's plenty of headroom for them.
So I had a luxury Acura before my hybrid, and I was rubbing my head on the roof,
Yeah.
whereas no problem with this. So it sounds like they've done that. Well, Cheryl, why don't you talk a little bit about the range and how you manage the use of your car, or to the extent you even need to do it. But where are you refilling is euphemism, charging would be a better term.
Well, I live in Santa Cruz, and so today was really a perfect example of testing range. So driving from Santa Cruz over the hill into downtown San Jose, it was more than I usually do. I usually just drive my car around town. So today it used about 45% of my range to get over here. So I know that I'll be able to get back. And yet that really does take it down further than I usually do. Typically, my day with my Think, I drive downtown and I park a block away from City Hall, where there's public charging stations at Ecology Action.
Yeah.
And so I plug it in the morning. Maybe I have, I've used up, say, 40%. and I pick it up at noon because I don't want to be using the charging station when other people may want to use it.
So it's
And then it's
what we
fully
would call
charged.
full, yeah.
Yeah, it's fully charged.
Has the city put in charging spots, or are they just too competitive to get to them?
Actually, we put in the old style charging stations over 10 years ago, and then recently upgraded those to the new style. And a good point to make is that all the electric vehicles use the same style plug. So it's not like cell phones where everybody has a different style plug. In the electric cars, the modern electric cars, they're all the same standardized
And this
plug.
is a really critical factor,
Yeah.
because the conventional wisdom is that you got a bunch of different models out there, and everybody's, my analogy is computer printer, where every company does their own
Right.
special cartridges.
Right.
So you can just plug into any 110.
There are actually 240 volt chargers, the public chargers. Some of them have 110 and 240, but the 240 is common. And the only thing is that for each different model or manufacturer of charging station, you'll need an access card for that charger. Now, I'm an employee of the City of Santa Cruz in the Public Works Department, and our chargers are all public access.
Yeah.
So we don't want people to have a proprietary card to charge their vehicle.
So explain what you mean by an access card. I mean, we're used to thinking that there's a cord that you stick in one spot and you stick in to the electricity on the other.
Right.
What is it in addition to that?
In addition to that, in order to actually turn on the power
The charging station.
at the
Yeah.
charging station, you use a little credit card type card, and for the charge port model, for example, you just tap the station, it reads your access information that you've inputted into the computer base, and then it just turns on the charger for you.
And what's a typical charge cost you?
Free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely amazing. I mean, for me as an undergrad economics major, I think we ought to be charging because more people will put them in. But
Yeah.
the flip side is that that's just a great system. They just don't want everybody under the sun to show up to use this site without checking in.
Yeah, and that's why at the City of Santa Cruz we're putting in more stations, just to stay ahead of the curve, because we know that more and more electric vehicles are coming out, and so we want to make sure that we have plenty of charging opportunities for people.
So you came here, and if Create TV's parking lot had a charger, would you have to use it here, or is that just an addition that the city put on to have the access card?
I guess I didn't quite understand the
Well, it's
question,
'cause I
because the
don't
city
understand.
doesn't have an access card. Ours, you just drive up and plug in.
Yeah.
That's
So-
how ours are at the
Well,
city.
in Mountain View,
Yeah.
yes, you just drive up and plug in.
Yeah.
There's no access card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so that's the thing that's different with the chargers is I have 3 different access cards for 3 different manufacturer stations,
Yeah.
just so that I'm covered wherever I go.
So at home, do you have one of those stations, or can you use the regular power?
I do what Jean does. I just plug into the wall like a toaster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, which is wonderful.
It's just an appliance.
Yeah, it is an appliance.
Obviously, a 220 line might go faster. Do the Think car come with 2 sets of plugs that you can use depending on
No, it's
the
one
site?
plug, but it'll handle both.
Oh,
Right, right.
well, that's even better.
And it charges twice as fast on 240. I personally believe, without knowing for sure, that you get about 6 miles of range for every hour on 120 and about 12 miles of range for every hour on 240.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you happy with the car?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, because it's part of my work, I wanted to get an electric vehicle as soon as I could, and the price range was out of my reach. And then I too came across this article describing this special opportunity with the Think car. And so my net cost after the tax incentives was under $15,000. And that's unusual, because
This
if you
what will
buy a
happen with us,
Nissan
too.
Leaf, it would be more than twice that.
One thing I'd like to mention, if I may.
No.
is that-
I got to do some weird things. The guy that I used to co-host with was just a wild man, and I think the audience was 10 times as big, because you never could tell what could happen. But go on. I really apologize.
No, no problem. I really think, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Sharon, very shortly, all of these stores, Safeways or Walmart or anything else, they're going to have charging stations, because what better way to bring in customers? It costs almost nothing to provide the electricity. And hey, if I can get my car charged there, I'm going to go to wherever, Target or Walmart.
I hadn't
whatever.
thought about it, but to support your logic, a car parking spot costs a lot of money. And yet Walmart is willing to give it to you free, so you'll come there. So your logic is pretty doggone good on going
Well,
to
and
the
in
next
Mountain
step.
View, Walmart has 2 charging stations right directly in front of the store, at a preferred spot near the door.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about the advantages. Obviously, when you two drive, you're zero emissions. You are not contributing to the Bay Area having unhealthy air. But obviously, the energy has to be made somewhere. Clearly, a power plant's more efficient, but how do you see that trade-off?
Well, from what I've heard is, even if you were charging with electricity that was produced 100% from coal, it would be equivalent to driving a hybrid, a Prius. So it's definitely cleaner. Once again, City of Santa Cruz, want to toot our horn a little bit. We're installing...
We've got to send this over to your
to my
TV
boss.
station.
Yeah,
Yes.
send it to my boss. Anyway, at City Hall and at the police station, we're installing solar panels over both parking lots. And so we will be generating a lot of solar electricity for the buildings. We're also installing 8 charging stations with that solar project, so that we can start to transform our fleet into plug-in vehicles.
So we're down to about 30 seconds. Gene, you got about 2 sentences to tell us what you want everybody to remember, and then Cheryl's got about 2 sentences.
Well, I'm a little biased because I have a grandson who had asthma at one time, and I feel that I'm helping my grandson and the environment, but I'm doing it without sacrificing any quality of life. I mean, this car is it's a car, and it
Well,
works
Cheryl's
great.
going to have trouble beating that, but your 2 sentences?
Well, for me, reversing the damage that's been done to the environment is first and foremost. We're a coastal city. We know that we're going to have flooding in our town, and so we need to try and turn that back. And if we can do that with vehicles that are cheaper to operate than gas vehicles,
And cleaner for
and
the
cleaner,
environment. So we've been talking to a couple of Think car owners. You ought to think about getting one. So check it out and see if it isn't a better option for you. Next week, something else for Breathe California.